Hello guys, today in this session I am going to discuss about functions in Python. We'll be covering these points: function definition, the usage of functions, how we create a function in Python, how we can interpret that Python is an expression, Python function call could be treated as expression, working on different type of parameters and types of arguments. So basically we have two types of function: inbuilt function and user defined function. Inbuilt functions are, we have already seen many functions which are predefined by the compiler, on which we have done many experiments, like in case of tuples, dictionary, to find length of the string, to find minimum element of a tuple or maximum element, or to find sort the elements. So such type of various inbuilt function we have seen. Now our focus would be on how we can create user defined functions. Okay, in case of if you talk of function, it's basically a set of statements that perform coherent tasks, and we divide particular set of statements among certain functionalities. Like we have two options: either we create a full project at once, having all the statements, or we can divide different activities among simple functions, and those functions could be called for implementing the corresponding functionality. So that is the main idea, to break the large problem into small problems. So as usual, to define a function, we need to focus on these 4 points. The first point is that we need to mention the name of the function. To identify that whenever we need to call it, we need to mention the name of the function. Arguments, that is optional depending upon our implementation, that whether we have certain argument passed or not. That could be 0 or n number of argument. Body, like the actual task performed by the function has to be given inside the body. And finally, after the all operations or all the statements are executed, some result has to be returned, that is given by return type. Okay, now this is a brief idea that why we use function, basically to reduce the problem size into small sub problems, and those sub problems can collectively solve the larger problem. And it in order to support the modular approach on project development, we apply function concept, and we can give responsibility to certain entities for performing certain tasks. So in that sense, we can say we are hiding detail or giving assignment to certain functions for performing certain tasks. So it also makes the process of debugging easier. Now, how we define a function in Python? The thing which differentiate from other programming languages, we need to use a keyword in this case, and that keyword is def keyword. This def keyword we need to use everywhere whenever we are going to define a function. After that, we will give name of the function. Okay, so after name of the function, we provide the parenthesis like given here, and after parenthesis we apply a colon. That colon indicates that we have to start writing the code for that particular function after this colon. Okay, so whenever we press enter after the colon, we start a particular indentation spacing. At that particular spacing, we write every line of the code, and at the end we can use return statement to return any value by the function. Okay, now if I try to implement one simple example of function, let me open the interpreter. Now, as told that we have to start from def keyword. In small case, we have to write def keyword, and then name of the function. For demonstration purpose, I am using display function. In the display function, currently I am not passing any parameter, which is optional for us, and depending upon the function that we are implementing. After that, colon. That colon indicates that I am going to start writing the body for this function. So after that, if I press enter, you can see certain space is by default taken from this reference point. So at this space, we have to write every line of this code. So for this function, I am simply using one statement, print. Okay, and this print, I am writing single message like simple display. Okay, this is the output that should be taken as on execution of this function. Now, n number of lines could be written at the same space depending upon the code of this function. Right now I'm limited to only one statement. Now if I press enter, the definition is complete, and in order to call this function, I can simply use the same syntax as used in C language. Name of the function with parenthesis. If any parameter has to be passed here, but if there is no parameter in this definition, so it's simply blank. Now output is whatever I have given inside this. So we need to focus that we have to use def keyword in order to define any function. Okay. One thing more that we can do, and more general thing we should be aware about function definition. Let me take an example of inbuilt function. For example, suppose I have a tuple of some values. On these values, if I find the length of this tuple, so I have inbuilt function len. On this data structure I can apply, and it will give the number of elements. Now if anybody wants to know what this function do, so we can call help on this function len. Okay, help we can call on this function, and it is giving a statement and explaining what this function do, like return the number of items in a container. Container could be any tuple, dictionary, or any data structure. So how many elements we have, it returns. So we also seen through implementation, and this is the help section that we got. And after this, the same thing if we want to do with our user defined function. Like if somebody wants to know what this display function will do, we can use the doc string inside. So the doc string we can mention doc string which explains about the function. So we can write anything here to justify what this function is doing. So it is demo function in Python at user level. So anything we can write, and this would become part of the help section. So in future, if you are going to write any function, we can use this doc string to mention the help regarding this particular function implementation. So if you want to know this particular help only, then we can use help function on this particular user defined function. Okay, so you can see that it is demo function Python at user level. So this particular doc string is being displayed here. Okay, so where we are defining this display function under the main scope. So this is the reason it is showing that help function display in module main. So by default this is main module. Inside that we have written this function, and that can also change depending upon where we are defining it. Okay. Now this demo example complete. Another example direct I am giving here just to understand how we pass parameters, and very famous example factorial using Python function. Again we are using here def keyword. Def keyword calculate factorial, and this is the name of the function. Inside this num, that is a parameter. Simple fact value is being assigned to 1, and we have to multiply some number of times this value by increasing the value of 5. So for loop we are executing from 1 to num plus 1, and then reassigning this calculated value into the fact these many number of times. So finally printing the fact. Here at place of printing we can also make use of return statement. In this statement we are reading the input from the user and converting into integer, then storing into number, and then after that we are calling this function with that value read from the user. So type of this number is integer, so type of num will also be integer. According to the value initialized, it takes the value as a parameter. So this is an example where we are using parameters, passing and calling the function by taking input from the user. Next is function call is an expression. Here the focus is to understand that every function call could be treated as an expression evaluation. For example, if we talk of 15 plus 13 as a simple expression, this 15 and 13 is read, interpreted as a number, and then plus operator is applied over it, and result is returned over the same point where we are executing that expression. In the same way, if we are talking of a function sum 15, 13, the sum 15, 13 is called, and the control passes to the definition part. At that definition part, 15 and 13 are stored somewhere, and then in the definition of that function, this plus operation is being executed. So we can interpret that calling a function is equivalent to evaluating an expression. So if it is an expression, so we can use the function as an expression. Every function's output or function within an expression. So based on that, we can have some examples. Here, if we like print max 5, 3, so whatever this closing bracket should be there. So max of 5, 3 is first evaluated, that is returned by this max function, and then it is being printed by this function. Here we are using like an expression like max 1518 minus min 367. So first min of 367 is found, max of 1518 is found, whatever result returned, that is operated upon this minus operator. Similarly, here min of 588 is calculated by this function, returned, whatever value returned, that should 5 should return here, and 5 and 56 among these two values, maximum is being returned by this max function. So we can interpret every function call as an operand, or whatever result we get, that could be further operated upon, just like an expression. Now types of argument which are available in Python. Although we have seen many examples, here we need to segregate that how they are different. Required argument. Required arguments are the argument which at the time of calling are compulsory to pass in numbers and in order. Like if we are using two parameters, then the order should also be same, and the two parameters we need to pass at the time of calling. That becomes required argument. For example, if we are defining a function here, print me. So this str is name of the variable, and that indicates it is having one parameter. So it's our duty, or it becomes compulsory or required to pass this value whenever we are calling this function print me. So if we are not passing, it will generate error. In that sense, it becomes required argument. Okay, if we have two parameters here mentioned, then two parameter needs to be passed, otherwise it will generate error. Fine, that becomes required argument. For example, in this definition only, suppose we have def sum. This function def sum is having no parameter, but if we are passing any parameter here, a comma b, sorry, this parameter we need to mention inside the bracket. Let me make it visible here. So here we are passing these parameters a comma b. That means it requires two parameters. So whatever a and b is being passed here, we can return sum of a plus b. Okay, that completes the definition. So if we are calling this function sum with only one value, it will generate error because it is mandatory to give two values. So that becomes a required argument. Okay, and that order should also be same. Next concept is keyword argument. Keyword argument are used along with the variable name and the formal parameters. Like if we define this function str, this str is the name of the variable. If at the time of calling we are using those names, then these names becomes keywords. Okay, so along with the name of the variable, we are giving the value. Otherwise we were giving only values, but here we are using keyword, that means the name of the formal parameter and then their corresponding value. Such type of calling is called keyword argument passing. Okay, so this keyword argument passing allows us to change the order of parameters. For example, here age 50, name Mickey, we are passing, but above we have name and age both, so it will take the variable accordingly. Okay, but we have some rules. These rules we'll discuss in next part of this video. From this point we'll continue. Till then, thank you.